All right, so you finally got an interview, and maybe they tell you, sometimes it can just be a couple weeks out, and they say, "Hey, you're coming in, in a week or two, and you're going to interview." Sometimes they'll tell you, a month plus out. So, if you're confident that you're going to get some interviews, great. You can go ahead and start working on interviewing ahead of time. Uh, I I wasn't sure. I kind of almost felt like I was gonna jinx myself if I started prepping for interviews, but I should have been prepping for interviews as early as possible. You can be prepped for interviews throughout your undergrad. Doesn't matter. Um, I can't stress how important that skill is and how little we ever exercise that skill. So uh, first of all, as soon as you maybe get the email saying, "Hey, we'd like to have an interview with you," and you select your date, uh, that's you should immediately Google that school and learn everything you can. I mean, print out everything. When I was going into after my first interview, following that, I had a binder of info uh, for interviews. It was you, you should know about their clubs, especially just distinguishing things about the school. I was learning even about the history. I mean, that might have been a little excessive, but yeah, not to say that I did the interview perfectly by any means. I mean, there are things that I wish I would have done differently, but like starting on that second interview, I was just committed to, hey, I'm not going to I'm going to do whatever I can to make this successful. So I mean, an analogy that I've heard before is that if a say a pro athlete gets a tryout with or an athlete gets a tryout with a professional team, and they say, "Oh, we're going to try out in a month for the team." I mean, do you think they're sitting around eating potato chips until then, and then they all of a sudden show up and think they're going to perform in tryouts for that team? No, absolutely not. And that's just like the interviews, except you've you've never interviewed, or you've only interviewed a couple times in your life, and it's probably not as rigorous as the med school interview process. So this is a skill that can be trained. It's something that not many people even realize is a skill to be developed. They think, hey, I've looked over my AMCAS application. I know my personal statement really well. I've reviewed the school a little bit. I'm ready to go. No, not by a long shot. At this time, as soon as you get that interview invitation, yeah, start looking at the school, learn everything you can about the school. You're also going to want to start watch YouTube videos, people that can explain it a lot better than I can. I might have a guest on another video explaining the like how just to do well in your interviews, because it is an art form in and of itself. So watch videos on interviewing. There's the STAR method for answering questions, just to follow a logical format when you're answering questions. And then another thing you can do is look up what are the common med school interview questions. There are lists of hundreds and hundreds of those questions online, and at least looking them over, there's a few main questions they'll ask you, like, why do you want to be a doctor? Why do you want to go to this med school? There's some main questions they'll ask you, but then you'll want to have seen all these other questions before as well. Maybe they'll ask you a hypothetical, like um, uh, blood transfusions for patients whose religion prohibits that, something like that, and you're gonna just need to know what are they looking for in the answers, and if it's a question about you, what are red flags that you might send to them. So it's not that you'd lie about your response, but there are things to avoid in your responses, and there's some really difficult questions. In one of my interviews, I got asked, give me three bad traits. Give me three bad like traits about yourself, and like explain like ways that you're working on improving them. And so if you haven't thought about these things before, it's hard to come up with that on the spot. Um, and like I said, I'll go into a lot more about interviewing later on down the road in these videos. But these are just things to look into, because don't go in there and just think you're going to kill your interview if you haven't practiced. Because I can assure you, you're not. You might answer the questions, You might give, B plus answers, but you can very easily train yourself to be giving those A level answers, and that's what you want. Because if you get an interview, you should go into it confident that you're going to have a good shot at getting into the school. So work harder than your peers at that point. This is the last step in the medical school application process. Don't give up now. Work harder than you ever have, because it'll pay off. It'll pay off when you show up interview day and you feel confident. You're beaming, you're grinning ear to ear, because hey, I've looked at any question they can ask me, and even if they ask me questions I don't know, I'm ready to go. I've practiced on getting curveball questions and just things like mannerisms during the interview itself. So really, really prep that stuff in advance. And so my next time I'm gonna talk about the closer to the actual interview day, what you should be doing, maybe a week or two out, if you've had that much time to prepare as it is. So yeah, I'll talk about that in the next video, but I hope that you found this helpful. All right, see you next time.